Hey, this is Dr. Death of Goratorium, and you are experiencing Puppet's Corner.
All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Puppet's Corner. I have the distinct pleasure in bringing on somebody who from very far away nowadays. It's been a while since we have spoken, but I figured since you never really do interviews, that this would be a good opportunity for me to just grab you on here.
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sam Meador
how's it going?
Of Xanthochroid
Yeah.
is joining me on today's episode. How you doing, my man?
Very excited to be here.
Pleasure.
Excited to be back in California.
I know, right? No hurricanes. You're currently in Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
I
right?
am, and I'm trying to just share this live to
You're good, man.
my
I'm gonna.
groups.
I have to share it
Yeah.
live too. So
So yeah, I hopped over from Florida, and
how was the plane ride?
it was fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, we've got Hurricane Dorian looming, and it's supposed to just miss Florida, kind of skirt the coast, but we were already planning on flying out here, so we decided to make it an early trip, get ahead of the hurricane, and not have to.
Are
you know,
people doing
not,
that?
Not have to tough it out.
Are people doing that though? Like
I doubt there's any way to get out of there anymore.
anymore. So nobody was doing it like
They
at the
can
time
drive.
you were.
No, the
No.
roads were empty. Yeah, people can drive out, but it takes a long time. Because the funny thing about hurricanes that I didn't know, so people who don't live in hurricanes zones don't really know this, is that when people start to prepare for hurricanes, they buy everything in the stores. So
Right.
once the storm is announced, you go to the grocery store and the shelves are just empty. It's not true. There's just no water. They buy all the water, and then gas stations run out of gas because people come with their gas tanks to run their generators, to run their extra vehicles in case the hurricane's really bad and cuts off service to gas, because if you can't get around, then you've got no chance of gathering
Surviving,
resources
yeah.
and stuff. So gas runs out and water runs out. So it gets this very apocalyptic feeling
Sweet,
whenever.
like Mad Max.
It is,
kind
and
of
the
thing.
hurricane shutters, if you've never seen it, the hurricane shutters that go up over all the businesses, over all the houses, it's very eerie. So it is actually kind of cool. It was kind of cool the first time I was there, and now it's just annoying. It's inconvenient.
Well, yeah, it's just like hot weather, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or cold weather. But yeah, no, I want to
Yeah.
thank you for coming on and giving me a couple hours of your time.
Dude, I'm very happy
I'm
to be
excited,
here.
man. So the premise of the show, obviously, you've seen it, but for those of you who haven't, I'm going to go through your entire discography and some fun facts, and
Sweet.
hopefully you'll help me fill this in.
Dude, I'm at your service.
So let's go to when you first heard music. What age were you? What year was it? How did you get?
Yeah.
Where were you?
I'm sure I was always hearing music, but I think the first time I became aware of music, my older, I only have one older sister.
She's the
was,
oldest.
Yeah, was taking piano lessons, and I started to distinguish what I liked, what she played, and what I didn't like, and I would just always go over to literally the lowest keys on the piano. And I would pretend to be the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, and I
Okay.
would just be like playing on the lowest keys, whatever I could figure out. And then I'd be like, "Belle, it's time for dinner." Like,
That's
just,
awesome.
you know.
In that voice too.
Right. So you can see how that obviously lended itself to my future occupation as, a black metal vocalist
Yeah.
composer. But
It
yeah,
would have
so
made more sense for death metal, but you were
Yeah.
close.
yeah, so I got to thank my sisters, honestly, Jessie, my older sister, and Katie, my younger sister. Jessie was taking piano lessons. I started to get interested. And then Katie got this little toy piano that would light up the keys to play little songs. And so I started doing that, and then I started figuring out stuff on my own, whatever melodies. And then my parents were like, okay, I guess we have to get this kid lessons too, because
Well, what age were you?
by that time I was 9. So by the
Okay.
time I was 9, I was playing piano and listening to Weird Al.
Sweet. You can't go wrong. I still listen to Weird Al, man. No shame, dude.
Yeah.
Love him. Love Weird
Dude.
Al. But what about the piano? I guess kind of. Why did you gravitate towards the keyboards? And
Yeah,
piano?
that's a good question. I think it was something that obviously I just had a natural ability to distinguish tones and stuff like that. So figuring out melodies that I already knew, however poorly I did, I enjoyed it. It's kind of like a puzzle-solving thing. And the piano doesn't require very much physical dexterity. You just touch a key and out comes the sound, whereas a guitar is a whole battle with dexterity, and your left hand doing one thing, your right hand doing another.
But a keyboard's the same way, or piano's the same way too, though, dude.
Yeah, but when you start out, you can just pick one note at a time and create a melody, right? Guitar is not that way. You always have to use both hands, and it's very it's very articulate with your fingers where they need to be. If you don't know what you're doing on a guitar, you sound terrible. If you don't know what you're doing on piano, you can sound passable.
I would say the opposite, dude. I don't know.
At a certain level.
At a certain level.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm absolutely terrible at piano. I can never do what you do.
Yeah.
But guitar.
But you could take a finger and
pluck
out
I
some
can play
notes.
Sesame Street, but other than that, I'm good.
And when you're a kid, it's just there's no self criticism. So it was just I think it was really just a joy to just be able to sit there and make some sounds and make something that sounded familiar to me and to other people. And
was it kind of cool creating something that was like bigger than you too, though?
Like creating
like a song or something that's like going to take on a life of its own.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Later
at least
on,
at that age, it's like the sounds. It's just like, oh, I want to play like this. And
yeah, and you just start to, it's like, how do you create this feeling? And then it just kind of evinces itself to you, and you're like, wow, I just did that. Yeah,
right?
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
I guess, when did you first get the first piano kind of?
Yeah, so when I was 9, my parents got me just like a basic keyboard. So it was a 61 key, non-weighted keyboard. We rented it from like a business that surely would not exist these days. It was like a music rental business run out of somebody's house in Orange County. So it was cool. They had like violins and keyboards, and I guess at that time I started playing violin at school too, but I didn't think that was cool.
Really? See, I didn't know you played. What age were you when you played
Just
violin?
4th to 6th grade. So
when
9.
when you actually had to pick an instrument to play?
Yeah, 9 to 11. So yeah, well, it was you would be in the recorder class, or you could choose to join orchestra, right?
Right.
So,
in elementary school, absolutely.
yeah.
I remember
so
those days.
I remember. I mean, my mom thought I had something for it, but I didn't really like violin. It's a really difficult instrument, man. It always sounds terrible.
I wouldn't want to fucking do this.
It's dude.
But I love the sound of it.
The way you hold it is so awkward, and your dexterity has to be so developed from.
Because I did the flute, and the flute was hard for me, dude. Because the way that you have to do it like this, and you have to blow it into certain.
I know.
way,
I still
dude.
can't produce a sound from a flute.
Matt's like the only one.
Matt's
that
a pro,
can,
man.
Yeah,
Matt
dude.
just like picked up the flute, and Matt's
just
the drummer in Xanthochroid. He's like, oh yeah, I can play flute now.
Matt is like half of Xanthochroid. He fucking does like half the instrumentation.
That's
for
right.
that fucking band. So I want to get into when you first. What was your first band? Was Xanthochroid your first?
Xanthochroid.
Wow.
Xanthochroid.
And you started in 2005.
From beginning to end, no others. Well, that's not true. I was in a couple other bands we'll talk about.
We'll get it. We'll get into it.
Yeah, so we started in 2005. So by that time, I'd noodled on guitar a little bit, but keyboard was my main instrument, and I was mostly listening to a website called ocremix.org. So it's Overclocked Remix, and it was basically all just video game themes, video game music, and it was a whole community, and it still exists. So you can go check it out, but it's a whole community of people who do their own arrangements and remixes and versions of music from video games, so music from Final Fantasy or Zelda or Mario or whatever. So that's all I was into.
Were you into video games just like tenfold, just like music?
To a degree, but no.
No, okay,
No,
okay.
like
just
I
from the
always
website.
played the Zelda games. That was pretty much absolutely it. And then
Okay.
I'd play Super Smash with my friends. But once games went online and it was all MMO, RPGs or whatever, I started
CGCs or
I
something.
just started focusing on music, and but the music from games was still really, really ingrained because, dude, you sit there playing a game for hours and hours and hours, hearing the same music, and if it's well done, it becomes kind of part of you,
Right, or
Yeah.
it definitely becomes part of your upbringing too. So you always remember it.
Yeah, it's very nostalgic.
So how did this is the stupidest question I think anybody can ever ask an interviewer to ever ask a band.
I'm ready for it.
So explain the origins of the name for
Okay.
me. Not how you got. I mean, we'll get into how you got the name too. I hate that question.
Oh,
so that's
yeah.
why I
No, yeah,
I
it's
want
okay.
to word it a little
and it's
differently.
good because there's been some misconceptions about it out there in the ether, and which is very appropriate for what we're about to talk about. But so Xanthochroid, I just wanted a word that was, I just wanted a word that evoked the imagery of the music that I wanted to create. So it was kind of a joint effort between myself and Harrison Reese, the original guitarist.
And what
Man,
did
this
you?
beer
what,
just makes you burp.
I know.
Burp in the microphone.
What was the music that you guys wanted to create at that time?
Yeah, we wanted to create in the same way that video game music like enhances the environment that you're in, right? So like say you enter a desert zone and the music enhances that environment. We wanted to make music that, created an atmosphere and was also memorable and reflected the bands that we were into at that time. And at that time I had just a few years prior started getting into some metal bands, and I was like, yeah, this is the stuff, because the composers behind metal music, even for bands as big and mainstream as Metallica, like they always have their own unique approach to composition, whereas in pop music we've got very formulaic songs.
Right.
Metal music lent itself to incorporating elements from classical music or from video games and stuff
So
like
was that the reason why you got into metal as opposed to like say pop or punk?
Totally.
Or, like the composition wise, because you're as a pianist, it's a very orchestral instrument. It's like a lot going on. So I guess that was the reason why you liked metal, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of layers instead of it just like. I mean, dude, there are times. Don't get me wrong, dude. I love music. There are times I'll put on some pop.
Me
just
too.
to hear it, to get that satisfaction. But
now it took me a while to admit that to myself, but yeah, me too.
But I'm starting to see some parallels between your choice of instrumentation and the choice of the choice of why you got into metal.
Yeah,
so it's kind of
totally.
cool.
No, yeah, I wanted to say, it was, when you're learning piano, you don't just learn songs, and what I mean from that is the standard song structure. So the form of the music that goes intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus.
A B C D solo.
Right. Yeah, and you have a bridge thrown in there, and almost every song is the same, give or take. You don't have much variety. So I think from a young age, I was always really analytical, too much for my own good. So I would be like, no, this band sucks because they do the same formula as this band. And it was like, that was a bit of a premature judgment to just be like, well, this sucks because I can recognize this formula. That wasn't the appropriate way to do it. But, I was 15, 16. I didn't care. I was like...
Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to be like, no, every band sucks except the bands I like. So it was just like... it was... I just got a text from our friend Zach Bones.
Oh,
yeah.
Zach Busser.
From Necroticus. Anyways, we'll get to them too.
Yeah,
but man, what was I talking about? Yeah, no, I always wanted to. You learn on piano, you learn sonatas, you learn rondos, you learn different types of forms of songs that take you on a different journey. And it was like when I heard metal, like when I heard a song like "Fade to Black" by Metallica, I was like, this song is a journey. It doesn't have a verse and a chorus and everything. It takes you from point A to point B in a very creative, emotionally evocative journey.
But there's also songs with
Totally.
formulaic, like Master of Puppets takes you to a journey and then it just fucking gets off into its own thing. So there are different types of songs. And I guess piano
but then there's
taught you that.
Yeah,
right?
there's like Fight Fire with Fire, and it's just, it's like...
But it satisfies what you want to...
Exactly. And that's the place,
That's
I
what
think all those
music's supposed
songs
to be.
have a place, but it's like to reduce all of music to just the song form, nah.
Yeah.
There's way more to music than that.
I think I agree too, man. So when you first picked up the piano, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you go about finding Harrison and stuff?
How did I find Harrison?
Well,
I walked across the street.
Well, he lives across the street from you, but no, that's not him per se. But I'm talking like all the other.
Oh, dude, he'll appreciate this. So Harrison at the same time, I'm about to drop some truth right here.
Ooh.
Harrison at the same time was learning guitar, so he had just started taking guitar lessons. He was my next door neighbor, pretty much. Like, I walk across the street to Harrison's every day to watch him play Mario and play on his piano while he played, Lineage or something.
So he could play piano as well? Is that...
No, he had a piano, but he didn't play it. So I would play on his piano. He'd be playing like EverQuest or something. But he was also learning guitar at the time because he wanted to be like, a black metal guitarist. He was into the gnarliest stuff before I even heard of it. So,
give me some bands.
So like, oh man, it was obscure stuff because he would just search like death metal on BearShare or on like LimeWire,
Ooh,
and he would just
LimeWire.
download whatever came up. So he got weird bands like, let me see, like there was just a band called December. There was a band called ... and Oceans. There was a band called Witchery, a band called Abyssos, like pretty obscure bands.
I never heard of any of them.
Yeah,
so.
but they were all awesome because it was like, people would make their folders, their LimeWire folders to share with people, and they'd make these songs that they liked, and they'd name it like, like super cool gothic death metal .mp3, and you download it, and you're like, this is awesome, and you may not find out what band it is for like 5 years, but you're just like, this song rules. I don't know.
Right. Well, no, that was the climate of the internet back then.
Yeah.
Dude.
But so anyway, so Harry was learning guitar, and he was terrible. And he knows it. Everybody knows it. And
why was he terrible? His
he
timing was
it
terrible.
was just not rhythm.
Okay.
He would learn songs, like he would learn song after song, day after day. But it was just his rhythm. It would just, he was in his own world. We would always say that to him in practice. I'm like, Harry, you're in your own world. Like, get on track with the drums. But he was super creative, and we really had the same vision. We were like, we want to make music like this that makes you feel this way, that is epicness and darkness and this cool atmosphere and everything. So we had that, and I was like, well, I don't care, man. This guy's my friend. Like, I don't care if he sucks at guitar, but like.
Well, when you were what, 14?
I was 15.
15.
Yeah.
So he
when we
was.
started.
How old is he? He's what, 15 as well? Or
He was 1 year older than me, so he was
Okay,
only
so-
16. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he got started late.
Yeah,
with
that's
playing
true.
guitar.
That's
so
true.
Because
So,
most of the people
yeah.
that I interviewed, they're always like, "Yeah, I started at 12," which is what roughly around the age that I started, and you
Yeah.
started at 9.
Yeah. So by the time you're a teenager, you've gone through some.
So he
a
hasn't
little development.
sucked. He just hasn't had
Probably.
experience,
Yeah,
right?
right. So, anyways, I didn't want him to like. I started jamming with my friend Sean. He wasn't allowed to play drums at his condo where he lived. So I asked my parents if he could bring
Sean Culver.
Sean Culver. Yeah.
Okay, the original.
The ancestor.
The original drummer.
The original drummer. So I asked my parents if he could bring his drums to my room, which we had built in our garage.
That's right,
Yeah,
dude.
because my parents had too many kids and not enough room, so so I had a room built into the garage.
You had the coolest room in the
it was
house.
best.
No,
No
dude.
windows, gray
No.
walls, gray carpet,
Yeah, but
black
dude,
ceiling.
You had the greatest room.
Yeah, it was great.
It was,
no
dude.
AC, just sweat and metal. That room was dedicated to the band. I got my bed, my bed was almost on touching the ceiling because I was like, I can't have a bed taking
That's
up
right.
space
It
in
was
here.
like a bunk bed, but it wasn't a bunk bed. It was
Right,
just
yeah,
like
I took
top
out the
and then
bottom,
just
so it was
stuck
just
up.
like, yeah, with the drums need to go there. So I was like, I don't have room for myself. I just need my band in here.
That's kind of cool. So what was it like to wake up every day in that room and just be like, oh,
Dude,
I
I
drums
should be a
below us.
way better drummer than I am, to be honest. Like, I should be way better at drums. But yeah, I always had the drum set, I'd have a guitar. I played mostly acoustic, and I still do acoustic rather than electric, and my keyboard. So yeah, it really was like, especially in my teenage years, just wake up, play music, try to create something.
Yeah, because you didn't have a job then. It's not like you had any responsibilities. So
Yeah,
it's
not
just like
until-
music 24 hours a day.
Not
dude.
until I was 16, and even then I wasn't working much.
So when you got Harrison and Sean,
Right, so let's tell this story. I was jamming with Sean, and he was pretty good. He had been learning drums for a while. His uncle had taught him some stuff, and we were coming up with stuff. He was super creative on the drums. Didn't know the difference between, 4/4 and 3/4, but it didn't matter. It was all just feeling and just creating parts, and I would play video game songs that we knew. Like, I'd play Lost Woods from Zelda, or I'd play
Metroid.
I'd play Metroid, or I'd play something from Chrono Trigger, or anything like that, any video games that we knew that I had figured out by ear, because back then it wasn't easy to find
No, it wasn't
music,
easy to find tabs either.
sheet music for that
yeah.
kind of stuff. So it was just all by ear, and we were having fun. And then Sean was like, well, let's get Harry over here. And I was like,
Well,
already an elitist before I even started the band. I was like, yeah, he's just learning. He's like, yeah, whatever. But Sean was just like, no, we're bringing him over. We're going to start jamming. And I was like, you know what? Okay. So he came over, and I would literally write out tabs, note for note, for Harry to play, because he was just learning and stuff. And I was just learning how the guitar worked and everything. And so that's how it started, really just the three of us for a little while.
So from what 2000? What month of 2005? Was it early,
That's a good
like
question.
January?
I think February.
February. Okay.
2005, as far as I can remember. And so we were just jamming for a while. I wrote Pangaea. Actually, Sean.
We'll get into that. I want to get into how the demo came about and stuff. But
yeah.
So I'm just wondering how long you jammed with those two. Was it just from February to
I can't remember, man.
Like 8? Was it 8 months? Was it 6?
Now
was it
14 years ago? So
well, I know, but just try and
let's say like 2 to 3 months was just the
2
three
3
of us.
months. Okay, so then after you started jamming, right, with the guys, kind of started getting how everybody worked in the band and how everybody worked as like individually speaking. Mm-hmm. What was your next step after?
So that was when Sean insisted that we have his brother join the band. So we had Sean Culver and his brother Will Culver.
He's one of my favorite bass players.
Oh, yeah. So
he's really good.
Yeah. He was really good.
He was really good.
He was really good. I hope he's watching this.
We love you, Will.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him. I'm glad he's doing well.
Well, he's a
doctor
now.
Asshole. I know who I'm going to. Anyway, so you got Will in the band.
Yep. So and I was like, yeah, okay, like Will's really good. He was significantly older than us. So 4 or 5.
Give me the age group.
So I was 15. Sean and Harry were 16. Will was probably already 21 at the time? 20 or 21. So pretty big age difference. So, and I was like, but yeah, I've heard him play bass. He's so good. He can slap. He can slap, guys.
Whatever the fuck that is.
No, he can slap the bass. That means he's basically a god.
I like that. He's basically.
But he had also like
with 2 S's, right?
He had also kind of grilled me when I was younger on like some music theory, and I was like, I was like kind of out of my depth when he asked me those things. I was like, wow, I don't know. You must know everything. And so I was just like, well, okay, I guess we'll have Will over. Like, he's so good. Like, we'll see. So Sean had been sharing some of our music. I think we must have made like a little recording of it, some of our music that we'd been jamming on. And he heard it, and he was like, yeah, like, I'm into it. Like, because Will's was the biggest nerd of us all as far as like video games, and he knew the history, man. He's an 80s kid, so like,
he's older, dude.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, so he was really into what we were doing, and I was like, yeah, okay. So he came over with a song he had. Oh man, if I knew we were talking about this, I would have brought because I still have the paper.
That's awesome.
He came over with a song that he had written, and Will was basically like, I mean, if he wasn't going to be a doctor or a musician, he would have been like a very kitschy, cheesy comedian. Like, he could have been in Tenacious D, like that was always his jokes. You can still, if
That's
like,
great,
if you have him on Facebook,
guy.
like his personal page is basically just a meme page of like punny, wholesome memes. It's like, it's hilarious. So he wrote a song called "People of the Turd," and I still remember it. And he played it on bass and sang it for us, and he was like, "If I was a turd, I'd jump out and scare people, yeah." And like, just
it's like Mormons on. It's like Tim's classic.
Yeah,
Mormons
exactly.
on bikes.
So
dude.
it was like that, and we were like, okay, that was pretty funny. But at the same time, he wasn't into metal.
I didn't know that.
No, he wasn't into metal at all. It was all like rock, maybe a little Perfect Circle, but Tool was a bit much for him. Yeah, and I don't know if I'm misquoting that, Will, but we'll see. So it was kind of like an adjustment, and we're like, okay. So, because me and Harry, we really wanted like metal, and then Sean was like, either way, he was the drummer. Like, he just plays the drums. It doesn't matter. And then Will was more on like the actual rock side of things, and I wasn't familiar or interested in it. So the early Xanthochroid was really a result of 4 very distinct influences, and that's why it was actually really cool.
Dude, so here's my story, man, and I can definitely add to this. So it was 2006. This is when the Pangaea demo like just came out.
Just dropped.
Right.
Was officially released.
Right. So we went to high school together. I had no idea who you were. I think I just came because I forgot why I was in music appreciation. So our El Toro, let's explain real quick to the viewers. El Toro High School had this thing called music appreciation.
Well, yeah, because it had no real... The only music program it had was marching band.
Yes.
There was no music theory class. There was no, like, music history or music appreciation. It was only marching band.
But why were you the leader? Like, how did you get into...
So, because it was going to not exist. So, the year before, I played at Bullstock, which we'll talk about, which was our...
That was 2005?
That was 2005, yeah, we played there.
So I was not in...
No, I guess you weren't there. Or were you not even in high school?
I don't think I was in high school yet.
Yeah, because you were 2 years...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had played there, and the club was falling apart. Like, the teacher, every club needed a teacher to sponsor it, and the teacher was like either over it or he was retiring or going away or something. He didn't want to do it, and so I just like I don't even know, man. I was so determined to make the concert happen again. That's the only reason I became the president of Music Appreciation Club.
You
literally.
did, dude.
So bands could play this concert, because I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. This is like any kid in high school who's in a band. This is all they want to do is play a concert
for their
peers at their school.
At their school. That's
right?
fucking cool, dude.
Yeah, like that's the coolest thing. It's a shame that it probably doesn't happen anymore because of...
I think we were the last year, dude.
Yeah.
We trashed that fucking place, so
Yeah.
we were like the last.
Well,
yeah.
and you want to know why it really doesn't happen is because like
there's no support for it.
Yeah, there's no support. There's no,
Dude, for its time and place that we happened to stumble upon it. I'm thankful that we were both a part of it, but I'm more thankful that you took on the role of just getting it together. So how did you get in touch with, I think his name is Mr.
So I had to find...
God damn it. I forgot what his name is.
Mr. Magoo.
Yeah, Mr. McGee.
He was
That's
super
right.
nice.
Yeah.
But I had to find a teacher. I don't remember how I did this. I just had to find a teacher in the school who was willing to sponsor the group.
Which means, hey, it's lunchtime. Do you mind us utilizing your classroom for the lunchtime too?
Yeah.
That's all it was. And then you gave, I guess, updates pretty much every week.
Dude, yeah.
And I remember it was me, you, John, and like maybe Zach Busser, and that was it for like...
The funny thing was there was
6
music
months,
appreciation, and all it was metal appreciation.
But here's the thing, nobody would go to it, so it was just us
Right.
four. That was my point.
I
And
know.
it was really sad, and I was like, well, these guys don't deserve to fucking play. I'm here every
Yeah.
every Wednesday.
Dude,
was it?
I kicked some people off. Some people I let on even though they sucked, but...
Well, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like if you weren't there every week, I mean, I thought that was really like kind of cold. You know, it's like
Yeah.
this. I felt what you were feeling was like, this is so cool. We get to play in front of like
Yeah.
our peers.
Yeah.
At
It
a
was a
school.
privilege, really.
Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? You could
Yeah.
be the bee's knees.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. You could be the king of the castle.
That's right,
King
dude.
of the campus.
And not saying I was, but I felt like it.
Yeah.
for sure.
They didn't make you feel that way.
I had
Yeah.
all the ladies screaming. It was rad. But my point is, when you took on the role, how many? I think there was 8 bands I could possibly play on each of these things, and it happened once a year, which is called Bullstock.
Right, yeah. So, I don't know. Somebody started it way back in the day. My friend, actually, I knew a friend of mine who had graduated like 10 years before. His name was Stephen Shaw. He had played at it, and I had heard stories about it ever since I started going to El Toro, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I'm totally going to go to that. And I thought it was sort of an institution. And then when I became a senior and it was like, oh, no, I think we're dissolving music appreciation. And, Yeah, I had to work at it every week. I had to write essays and letters to the dean and to the principal to allow us. I wish I could find those. Maybe I can on like my old hard drive or something. These letters that I had to write, like asking for permission to do bull stock at the school, and I was like pleading with them, pleading my case, making points of why it's a benefit to the school, why it's a benefit to the students. And
Well, dude, they made money.
yeah, I know.
Like nobody
Yeah.
was doing drugs.
No.
You know, it was like a place where.
Well, that was always the excuse. Well, people are going to do drugs and stab each other. It's like,
Yes, because
no,
that's what
they're going to do if there's not a concert to go to. So, all right.
Right.
There's nothing for kids. There's nothing for kids to do on their own. You know, it's like, come on, let them have a little
fun.
have
you
a little
know?
fun. And it was always supervised. But I think looking back, I realized like the school had to provide security and oversight. So that's the thing. They, you know, who knows if they actually made money on it or if the salaries and payments for security and keeping that part of the school operational for that time. But
Well, I always thought it was like a theater kind of thing. You know how like drama had plays and
he didn't want anything to. The drama teacher didn't want anything to do with it.
No, not the drama teacher.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like how the drama had plays when people can pay money. It's just like that. They can,
Oh, yeah.
like I'm sure it's the same principle
Yeah,
kind
it's
of thing.
Yeah, it's a source of revenue
And the
for the
thing
school.
is they didn't want to do it maybe because like they didn't understand the musical aspect or
Yeah.
something. But
well,
I
you
always
know
thought
how
it
it
was
can get with some bands, just wanting to get drunk and all that.
fucking
but
15 or 16 years old. I don't know. Maybe not
It
at not at those times. Maybe these times, but not at those times.
yeah.
Most of us just wanted to play.
Yeah. But anyway, so I took on the role of Music Appreciation Club president and got it going, put the word out. I wish I could like watch how I did all of it because I don't remember. It was just like, how did we do that without social media and stuff like that? I would just put the word out I would submit announcements to the
Well, we didn't have social media, dude.
ETTV, right? They had the school news, so I would submit announcements to that every week about if we were meeting. I would make sure to find all the members and be like, hey, we're meeting today, or hey, we're not meeting today, like, or hey, can you do this so that maybe we can get approved
that's
for
right,
like I would
dude.
come and try to get people involved and everything. So it was like, yeah, it was a pretty special thing. It was pretty cool. And so yeah, we would meet once in a while, and that's how I met you.
It was once a week, and we met in the first week you did it. I think first or second week you did it, you were in the portables, like way on the other side
Yeah.
where the field is. And I
Yeah.
went there with I think it was John because I was hanging out with him, and I'm like, okay, cool, we'll go check this out. And I remember Becky was there. You were there, and I think you wrote on the chalkboard because we had chalkboards. If you don't know what a fucking chalkboard
I just
is,
wrote on the chalkboard. I was just like,
coconuts, go to it. I'm like,
oh
okay.
yeah, promoting using my position for
totally
self promotion.
did. It was
Well, what
rad.
did I care? Like what else was I gonna do? I'm like, hey, this is news. Playing at Coconuts. I think I also maybe at the first or second meeting I just wrote like black metal. What is it? I'm like, that's all I wanted to talk about. And yeah, you showed up, which I was stoked because I'd seen you around, and I was like, I wonder if that kid plays,
Right.
Because people would be like, hey, look, there's like a mini you walking around.
Well, I'm glad I'm a mini you instead of a mini whatever.
Well,
so.
now we've got even the same facial hair we've got now.
We just accomplished different things in our musical careers. But the thing is when you were doing the music appreciation, like how did you find members? Did people
don't
just
remember.
kind of show up and?
People just somehow the word got, like I said, I made the announcements. I think that's probably how everybody heard, because we would be forced to watch the ETTV like news anchor make announcements or whatever. I think I just submitted it to that, and then people started showing up. So
I love that, dude, because
Yeah.
I remember Rich would always show up with me too, Rich
Oh, yeah.
Nelson.
good
and
buddy.
Great buddy, dude. I hope he's doing okay.
I hope he's watching.
I hope he's watching too. So when and then take me back because I don't know this story, and I wanted to always ask you this. I don't know why it's been fucking 15 years since I've asked you, or almost 15 years. Your 2005 appearance at Bullstock. So how did you actually get onto it, and who actually played with you guys?
Dude, that's a good question. I can't say that I remember any other bands that played and I think I was backstage the whole time. But it was like I kind of found out about it at the last minute because the girl who was running the club that year, like, wasn't very involved, just got bull stock going, and apparently it was a big problem, just like you said when you guys played the last time, the theater got trashed and all that. So, like, I hooked up with her at the last minute. I was like, hey, my band wants to play, and it was kind of a problem because we had a member that was like over 21 or whatever, and the school didn't want people over like 20, or they didn't really want people who were graduated from high school to come back. You know how they don't want that.
Oh,
they don't
that
want
makes a
kids
lot of
coming
sense.
back to the high school. So we had to get that worked out. But yeah, I don't remember. I just remember I was like, wow, that was really fun, and it could have been way better.
How so?
Just with somebody who knew something about sound, setting up proper amplification, proper, sound reinforcement, and keeping the bands on time, keeping, also being a bit of a curator for what bands were going to be allowed to play. If you remember, I required every band to submit a demo.
That's right.
And I still have some of those demos.
So what was the requirement for those demos?
I think I made it like you had to have 3 songs, and it could be any record. It could be just a 1 mic recording of your band. And I sat there and I evaluated, the musicianship, and because I was judge, jury, and executioner. I was just like, this is all up to me.
The
Like
musicianship. That's funny, dude.
I like judged every band for like the musicianship, the songwriting. It was my fantasy world of like music dictatorship where I could decide what was good and what wasn't. I think really what happened is that there were really only 8 bands that were formed and serious about playing. So no matter what, I think I let everybody play because at least they were a band that practiced and wanted to play. And the guys who were jokers who never even submitted any music, I just had to say, you can't play.
Right, because you didn't meet the requirements. I think that's a great thing that you put in place there.
Yeah. Hey, venues should do that.
Right. So when you chose the bands, right? How did you do the order for them? Like, how did you know what band to put on when?
Oh, that's a good question, man.
Like, how did you know? Like, it's like, okay, well, you're kind of just
I think I grouped them by genre.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heavier bands play later in the night.
I probably put you guys closer to us. I don't remember the.
We did. Yeah, we played either
the
before
order.
or after.
I wish we had a film of that one.
I do. I do of ours, but not yours.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So.
Dude, don't forget too. I videotaped everything. Remember that? Remember those
I
days,
know.
dude?
There's some good videos. You should put them. I know you've put stuff on.
Yeah.
On
But the
YouTube
point
stuff.
is, so when I was doing Xanthochroid, when I was doing Necroticus with John, I think we played right before you.
I think so.
I think we did.
Yeah.
But I was just curious as to.
And then I put Necroticus on after.
Yeah, something like that.
They were like the last one because I was like, yeah, we don't want to play last because people will be leaving.
Right. So
Xanthochroid
sorry,
gets the
John,
best.
you got the scraps.
Yeah, Xanthochroid gets the best spot because I'm
I'm
the
saying,
president of the world, and we're going to make Bullstock great again.
That's funny. I was just curious as to your lineup for 2005, I guess was my original question.
So 05 was the original lineup that really only lasted 1 year because following that, Sean joined the Army. So he was gone after 1 year. So that was the original lineup: Will, Sean, the brothers, Harry, and me. So 1 guitar, 1 keyboard, 1 drums, 1 bass, and no vocals.
Right, well, you didn't have you didn't have to have
we were
vocals
instrumental.
because you're instrumental and you were doing like not video game covers, but you were
We did some, and then we
you
had
did some originals
video
too.
game-esque music.
Right.
Down to the cheesy synth patches.
So give me a rundown of how you recorded the Pangaea demo, because I know Xanthochroid fans need to know this.
Oh, man. So I did start, if you're a member of Xanthochroid fans, I did start sharing the Pangaea demo.
Well, that's because I fucking kept kicking your ass. I'm like, hey, dude, you need to share this, because you're like, dude, nobody is going to believe that that's actually us. And it's like, it doesn't matter. That was part of your history. Because I remember remember that open fucking, like, what the hell is it? thing in El Toro, right above the
gazebo.
the gazebo thing.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there with a couple friends, and you had handed me the Pangaea demo.
Oh yeah, I was handing it out to everyone.
And I knew you from the music appreciation. That's why That's why I originally asked you, because I remember getting that demo at school.
Yeah.
Putting it on, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And I got to track 4. And I still remember this, dude. I got to track 4.
I know what it is.
It was strangulation on
That's
the chicken bone.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is the greatest thing ever, dude!" Because it had that slapping bass in the beginning, and I can't find the demo anywhere. I can't find it anywhere because I've moved. I moved, so I don't know where anything is.
Well, Katie Meador is the gatekeeper of the Xanthochroid demo.
Hey, please give me a copy of that.
She's got OG copies.
No,
yeah.
please give me a copy of that. I would love to have one.
Okay.
I remember sending you the 2-song promo that you didn't have. The Executioner and Xanthochroid.
I wanted to bury that and never remember it.
Yeah, but you should still have a copy of it. It doesn't matter.
That's true.
But the point is, I remember getting it, and I'm like, I love this.
Yeah.
And then how did the demo originally come out? Like, where did you record
So
it
we
at?
had no idea how to record anything. We had Will had an old 4-track cassette recorder, and we did record there. Okay, so maybe I can get this, and maybe we can share it on this, because we still have the original cassette, so maybe we could transfer what's on there. I think we did a cassette recording of, must have been Pangaea, the song. And we were like, yeah, this sucks, because our drummer Sean was always breaking his drum heads, and we didn't have money to buy new drum heads, so he was always just taping cardboard and duct tape over it, and it just sounded so bad. We didn't know how to record. I think we just threw 2 mics in the room somewhere and just recorded it or whatever.
Where was it recorded at?
In my room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
Oh shit! So it was literally everything was just.
Yeah.
Your room was it, dude.
Right. Yeah. So it was just recorded in my room. That's where we practice. My parents, God bless you, they are champs for letting us record.
Your parents rule.
Yeah, for letting us play in there any night, any volume. They were so supportive, so eternally grateful to them. And yeah, so we didn't know anything about recording. We realized that our recording sounded horrible. And
I disagree.
Yeah, our friend Andrew Van Vlier, who is an incredible musician these days, incredible pianist, accordionist, guitarist, unicyclist, juggler, banjoist, ukulelist. What else? I don't know. He's very good with the gypsy jazz stuff. He's an incredible musician, and was at the time as well, even when he was 16. And he was getting into music production, so he knew a thing or two about. I think he used Pro Tools. I can't remember. It was 2006. But he offered to record us, or we solicited him somehow. So he came over to my room to track drums, and so that happened. I think I piped in the music to Sean's ears through headphones. I would pipe in playing live keyboards so he could play the parts on drums and get them correct. No click, with a cardboard bass drum head and just 2 mics. I think a mic that was between the snare and the kick, and a mic on the kick, or maybe the other mic was above. Anyways, not the ideal drum recording. And then we went to Andrew's house and tracked the rest of the instruments, and that was a puzzle, trying to keep up with Sean's drumming, because tempo was not something that...
It wasn't your grid, dude.
Yeah, the tempo was very, very fluid, so it was hard to stay on time with that. So you'll notice that if you do listen to the Pangaea demos, but Andrew was a champ and made it sound as good as he could. You'll notice all the keyboard patches on there I created myself, and the reason they sound the way they do is because I was just always trying to get the maximum volume out of my keyboard. So I would literally go into every patch and just max out the volume, max out the velocity, because all I had in my room, my parents, I didn't know sound equipment and stuff. My parents got me studio monitors.
You had no idea what actually room in music was?
No.
Everything was clipping, just like...
Oh, pretty much, yeah, my keyboard. And I'm sure when it was recorded, it was brought down. But I ruined it, I was always like... No, I have to be loud because, I had to be loud enough to be heard over the drums when we practice. And all I had were studio monitors. And they were maybe 3-inch studio monitors, maybe 4-inch studio monitors. Those aren't meant for live performance. And I just had my keyboard hooked up directly to those. So I would crank it up to max, crank my keyboard up to max, and it wasn't loud enough. So I'd have to go into the patch and max out the volume in the patch. So all the patches that were on the recording were all a result of that. So even when I was recording, I had this patch that was just so unmusical and ridiculous. It's really funny in retrospect with all I've learned. So yeah, and it just makes Matt just shake his head like,
what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Well, dude, but this was
But
in
Matt
2006,
Matt was
dude.
12 at the time, so
Well, dude,
he
that-
could
this
suck
is-
an egg.
That I would like to see. But no, in 2000, that was in 2006. So who did the artwork for it? Real quick.
Yours truly.
Oh, you did. Okay,
As-
so
as-
how did it come about?
I was taking a graphic design class in high school, and I learned about this Photoshop filter called plastic wrap. And there was a Photoshop tutorial.
Plastic wrap.
Yeah.
What is that?
It just makes everything look like there's a layer of like saran wrap over it. And so I found this tutorial online that was like how to make a realistic looking planet. And so it was all just done in Photoshop, the Pangaea artwork. I wonder if it's
And what was the name behind it? Why Pangaea? Like, what's the...
just trying to tie into like the vast and epic themes, right? But Pangaea is supposedly the original continent before, the tectonic plates, separated and
Oh, so
formed
it's
the
Earth,
continents.
it's Earth before Earth? Is that what you're telling me? It's like...
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay,
You
cool.
know, whatever you believe, whatever. At the time, it was.
That's what it's called, though. Okay.
Okay, yeah, right. It is called Earth. Yeah. So
yeah, whatever it
at the
is.
time, it was a very appealing concept to me. Time before time, right?
That's cool. It's still cool, dude.
Right. And so Pangaea, just a big, an epic concept. There wasn't much thought behind the titles and concepts back then. It was just like
Clearly.
it was just whatever came out of the music, whatever it made me think. I was just like, okay, that's the title. Next.
So, why Strangulation on a Chicken Bone for fucking...
I was reading John Steinbeck's East of Eden
Okay.
in high school, and he's a great writer, but I didn't get it at the time, but I liked some of the phrases that he came up with, and Strangulation on a Chicken Bone was one of them.
Okay,
I think it was
cool.
terrible. I think it was about literally like some big man like strangling a woman to death, and he was like, oh yeah, it was like strangulation on a chicken bone because she was so skinny or something. Yeah,
It's pretty
so
fucked up.
but I kind of more got the image of like choking on a chicken bone
Yeah,
from like
that's what-
eating it too fast. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
It was
too.
just a goofy song, and the song is goofy sounding.
So when did you first play your first concert or whatever?
Dude, oh yeah, so Coconuts, yeah,
Coconuts,
Coconuts was the first show, yeah.
But it wasn't the one that I saw. So it
We
was
were
the one
supposed
before,
to
right?
we were supposed to play at a bar called Diablo's,
In what city?
that in Lake Forest. It was where the Gypsy Lounge used to be.
Wow.
Yeah, so Diablo's, so before Gypsy Lounge, and we were supposed to play there. At that time, we were so young, we didn't have a clue about how to like go about that, like get a gig or something like that. So Will, thankfully being in the adult world, was trying to get us out there and stuff. So we were supposed to play at a place called Diablo's. That fell through, I think, because the place went out of business or something. And then he got us a gig through his friends in a band called Dead Man Walking. And so I don't know if Austin Norman is watching, but he was the bass player for Dead Man Walking. And Will was friends with them, and they got us on that show at Coconuts in Capo Beach, which was a tiny little bar with a stage that was maybe 2 inches tall.
I remember. So you played. What was the feeling like when you first played a venue?
I think it was probably the best feeling I'd ever had in my life up to that point.
And as far as like a euphoric feeling, or
Yeah,
as far
totally.
As,
to be able to share the things that I had written and that we had developed as a band, like, just creating these songs out of our
Thin air, dude.
Yeah,
It's
out
just-
of thin air, out of our fellowship, out of our creativity. We created these things, and we had so much fun playing them, and we finally got to play them in front of people, and people came back in those days, believe it or not.
Did you
know?
have to sell tickets for it for the show?
I don't know about Coconuts.
I don't think we ever did.
I don't think it was a selling tickets situation. It was definitely not a paid situation, though.
Right.
But yeah, and it was one of those things where it's like we weren't really allowed to be there because it was a bar and we were
Under 21.
under 21. But back in those days, it didn't matter as much. They would just mark your hands because the world was sane.
Right.
And they would
It's
allow you
kind
to
of
come
like
in
what
and
it needs
play.
to be
And then you could go
nowadays.
back outside and, it was okay.
Yeah.
And everything would be okay.
Right, and you can go drink in your car.
So,
under
did you
21.
come to that first one at Coconuts?
I only went to the one that you advertised
Okay,
at.
I think it
so.
must
I
have been
think
the
that was the
second one.
second one. So
Yeah.
I saw the second ever fucking Xanthochroid show, which
Yeah.
I'm still proud of. Whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Right, well, Sean, it was still the original lineup with Sean.
Yeah, I was there for a long time.
Yeah.
That's beside the point. Let's talk about you real quick.
Okay.
So after the Pangaea demo, there wasn't really a reaction to it. There wasn't a reaction to you guys until the Incultus EP that
Oh,
came out
totally.
in 2011. I know you did some stuff before that.
Yeah, there was a big interim period with, we had another drummer, Brian Goodrich, who was Will's friend, so they were the same age. We actually played a lot of shows during that time, like
You played Hoagies with
we
us.
played
and-
Hoagies. Oh, dude, don't give me those yellow tickets.
Dude, I showed him. For those of you who don't know, ladies and gentlemen, I showed him some my portfolio, as I call it. My scrapbook
yeah.
of just my musical life. I think every musician needs to have a scrapbook of themselves.
Totally.
To tell their story to their young ones, or if they're interested in their
Yeah.
musical journey. But in the scrapbook, it had these yellow tickets, and Hoagies used to have these. Like, what was it? Like, I would say they were like this big kind of thing.
Yeah. They were literally cut out of construction paper.
construction
Sometimes
paper.
they wouldn't even cut them for you.
Dude, sometimes they were blue. Oh yeah, that's right, dude.
Yeah, sometimes you'd have to cut them yourself.
That's
You're
right.
sitting there with scissors cutting out the tickets. So
And then
they'd
you'd
make
have
you do that. You'd have to go exploit your friends to sell. And usually your friends were so young they didn't even have transportation, so they might not even come to the show. Selling we'd sell like 80 to 100 tickets at a time for a show.
Yeah, dude.
We would.
I remember those
Yeah.
days. Man, those
Yeah.
are good times, dude.
Yeah, there was.
There's not
yeah.
a lot of all ages venues anymore, which kind of is a shame.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know, but yeah.
There isn't. Trust
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But my point to the whole Incultus EP was that you guys were just making a name for yourself. You
Oh,
just
totally.
got Matt in the band
Mm-hmm.
around that time period. And I just was curious as to how you found him
Yeah.
and how the Incultus EP came about and where
Yeah.
kind of you recorded it.
Yeah, that's great. And that was a really, really fun time too. We had kind of a high in 2007.
Right, because Sean joined the Army,
Yeah.
Brian was filling in, and then you found Matt.
Yeah, we played a lot of shows. Couple years go by. We're all basically honing our craft. I had started going to college, so I was learning a lot about music theory and how to really achieve the things I wanted to achieve musically, how to write certain styles, how to write, orchestral music and things like that. So I was, kind of honing my craft through those years. And then the girl I was dating at the time, she was still in like the early music theory classes that I had already gone through, and Matt was just starting to take those classes too. Of course, Matt was not even graduated from high school, taking those classes, but not actually doing anything, just going to those classes to learn, and most of the time not doing any of his homework, but but just attending college. And I had seen him, and I had seen he had a binder, this black binder with a Norwegian flag on it. And, he had long blonde hair, and I was like, this kid really looks the part. Like, I wonder what he's into. And I had seen him playing piano, so I was kind of like, okay, yeah, maybe he'd be cool to talk to, but I really need a drummer, because at that time, Brian had left the band. We were playing with a drum machine. It was not a lot of... I was having fun because I was writing the music how I really wanted it, with a lot more in the metal side. And I was much better at guitar that time, so I could write the guitar parts how I wanted them. And so I had seen Matt, and somehow, I can't even tell you who knew this, but somebody knew that Matt was a drummer. Even though he hadn't played drums for what he says at the time was a year or two, he wasn't playing drums.
What was he playing?
He was playing piano.
Okay, that was his primary
Yeah,
instrument?
he was trying to go through college on the piano route. So he was just learning classical music, and all that. So I found out he was a drummer, and I like came up, and he always says that like he thought I was really scary, and like, but I came up to him, I gave him our demo at the time, which was Ice and Extremis demo.
Wait, and that was that with Levesque?
Yeah, that was Chris Levac, Will, Harry, and myself. So 3 original members, and then Chris Levac was the second guitarist and a drum machine. And again, we didn't know much about music production, so I was trying to do all the stuff. I did all the recording and mixing, and you can find that demo. It's out there. I've shared it. I'll share it again after this interview.
Please do. Yeah, please share it in the comments.
Yeah, it's out there, so you can hear. It's like you can hear the beginnings of the Xanthochroid sound through a very dim glass.
And how did you get away from the video game kind of esque music too?
Yeah, I think we always kept the spirit of it, but it was more just going through. When we had Will and Brian in the band, their influence was still much more on the rock end. Once Brian left and Will was very busy with school and stuff like that, it came down to myself, Harrison, and Chris Levac, and we knew what we wanted. We wanted metal. It's what we always wanted. We wanted like really epic symphonic black progressive metal. And so we started coming to practice with like, hey, this is our new song. One of the first songs I wrote was called Pashti. And then
Pashti, yeah, I don't think I'd ever made
you've heard it, but yeah, it's on
I'm sure I have.
Yeah,
but
it's the first song on the Ice in Extremis demo.
Okay,
but, yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So anyways, it was inspired by Sean's military career at that time. So he was in Afghanistan.
That's interesting.
The language that they speak in Afghanistan is Pashto, and I don't know why I made it Pashti. I think it was a misunderstanding on my part, but yeah.
And now you had lyrics then.
Yeah.
During this time too. This is the first time you kind of actually had lyrics. So
yeah.
How did what kind of
I think
topics?
I think it was just those years listening to metal where I was finally like, okay, let's have vocals. Because I was always such a purist. I was like, no, it's only music matters. Like, we don't need vocals. And all the music I listen to, it's all extreme vocals, and which I felt was like, yeah, I like them, but what's the point? Like, you just like aggression on top of aggression, right? With the extreme vocals and the extreme music. But I think just over time, being immersed in the world of metal, I was like, yeah, let's add vocals. We can elevate the music. And even at that time, we had clean singing as well with harmonies and stuff like that.
And you were doing all of them too, right?
Chris and I were doing them. Yeah. Chris Levac and I started with the vocals. And Will was involved in that as well. Harry was definitely never involved in the vocals. I don't think he wanted to anyways, but...
He was kind of doing his own thing. I remember he went to college for like mathematics and was kind of...
Yeah, that was around that time.
Kind of his,
that was around that time,
his thing.
Yeah.
And so where did you actually record the Incultus EP? I know it was you, Brent... I always forget the other guitar player's name. God
David.
damn, David.
David Bodenhofer.
Yes.
Yeah, so the Incultus EP was recorded at Matt's house, who was... very, very good with production.
He's a genius. No,
he is a genius.
Let's put it that way. Matt, if you're listening, you're a genius.
He is absolutely a genius. He's accomplished so much in the world of music. He's an amazing composer. I'm glad to have hopefully played a part in his musical journey and composition. And
I played
all
no
that.
part, but he mixed and mastered Into the Aquatic, and it fucking just ruled.
So he was always very into production. I was so happy to meet him and to learn from him, and he wanted to do it. So we were like, yes, let's make something that sounds really good. So at that time we had this really weird situation where we could have Matt's drums in this office building that our friend's dad owned at the time, but it was like totally not being used. So we just had drums in the back room. We rehearsed there for a little while. Really got the songs down, and that was still myself, Will, and Harry, and Matt. Chris had left the band because he hated Matt.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
And also because he was an alcoholic and all this stuff. But actually, I'm probably going to be talking to Chris coming this weekend, so that'll be really cool.
That's cool.
He's really a good guy, but everybody goes through their stuff, including myself. So anyways, we had this office space where we were practicing honing the songs that were on Incultus. So Ice and Extremis, Incultus, Wormwood, The Last Relic of Axon. And that's where you can really see that is the Xanthochroid sound. It's much more metal than what we had on Earth and Axon, but that was like, yes, this is what we want.
Earth and Axon. That was way later, dude.
Yeah.
You mean
Blessed He with Boils too, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so we got that. Harry was on his way out because he was going to go with his fiance to Cornell University to study mathematics. So he was on his way out. So we needed a guitarist. Really, we needed 2 guitarists. And at the time, Matt and I were both working at a music studio teaching mostly kids music lessons. And Matt had a student come in who had been with an older teacher and was trying to find a new teacher. And so that was Brent. So Brent Valafuco came in to have a lesson with Matt, which is really funny. Yeah. And Matt texted me during the lesson going, dude, we should have this kid join the band. And
how old was he?
Brent was 15.
Oh, shit.
And so I was 21. And
wow.
Yeah, I was 21 and Matt was 17, almost 18 maybe.
Wow.
And so like, yeah, this kid is 15. He was like, dude, we should have this kid join the band. Because as you know, and like you do a lot of interviews with people who are in the scene here, it's like we were in the scene here, but we were not in the scene here. You know what I mean? Our music we belonged in Europe, in Scandinavia. We didn't have really any place in this scene. People liked us.
But none of us did, though.
Yeah.
Because we didn't either.
Yeah, that's true.
But you know this. Like, nobody liked us then.
Yeah.
Nobody did. That's true.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
So we were kind of all in the same boat because
Yeah.
there wasn't really like a scene here.
Right.
Like in LA, that thrash scene was huge.
The only scene was hardcore.
Yeah, the only scene was metalcore, dude. And us and you guys in Necrotic, we didn't fit in with that.
Yeah,
that's
true.
We weren't
yeah,
those bands.
We were all
know?
in the same boat.
And I'm not, like I said, not discretioning anybody who liked that stuff. I just didn't like it. It wasn't my definition of what metal should be.
Right.
And because of that, because of it was so popular, none of us bands had our own thing. So we had to like kind of get together, even though we didn't play the same style of music.
Yeah.
Or metal or whatever, we had to still get together and still kind of work together.
Yeah, exactly.
To make it work, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because none of us are better than our parts aren't better as our whole kind of thing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You have to stick together. So yeah, it was frustrating.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, dude. It was frustrating.
Yeah. So trying to find a guitarist who was gonna be
compatible,
gonna want to play that type of music was tough. So we said, okay, let's find somebody who's really young who doesn't know what they like yet.
Well, if you're 15, you don't.
Not that was our plan, but it was like, hey, this could really work because we showed Brent our music. He thought it was amazing, and he was and is crazy gifted musician. Just his ear is incredible. His knowledge of the fretboard even at that time was just like, I never would have played it like that. So that's really cool. He had a way of playing that was very unique and foreign to me. So I was like, okay, let's bring him in. That's really good. He was kind of insistent at the time that his friend join the band too. And we were like, we've got one 15-year-old in the band. Do we want 2?
and that 2 was
David Bodenhofer, right?
Right.
So at first we were like, I don't know. But David was super into our type of music, right? He was super into black metal already. So we were like, okay, we'll give him a shot. He came over and we were like, you know what, this could really work because they're buddies. They're both still in high school, which is really cool. Like people in high school have bigger networks than anybody.
They're all friends,
right? Yeah.
You know, so.
And it's like, hey, yeah, this will be really cool. We can reach a whole new group of people, and they're into the music. They're super talented. They're just like we were. So, why not have them join the band? So I think that was kind of like a golden lineup for a while, was myself, Matt.
So the Blessed He with Boils.
The Blessed He with Boils lineup. Yeah, David and Brent and still Will. So still me and Will sticking it out, and Will sticking it out through his advanced schooling. And
I wondered why he stuck around during
dude,
that time.
because he loved the music, man. He loved the music. He loved being a part of it. At that time, he was still contributing.
Dude, he was
his
like
own,
27 at that time.
Yeah, he was still contributing his bass parts and still fully committed to his own pursuits in school. So it was just,
and he played bass.
made it work.
He played bass on the Incultus
Yeah,
EP, so it was like kind of the last kind of thing for him.
it was.
Because
Yeah.
the next year you recorded "Blessed He with Boils,"
Yeah.
and you, tell me how the recording process was.
Yeah, so right after we released Incultus, we started learning a lot more about how to do that correctly. Because when we released Incultus, we just put it out on Bandcamp, we promoted it on our pages, whatever following we had, which was very small at the time. Still online, We always still had like a local, something or other. We'd bring people to shows, but like we just put it out. We're like, man, how do you break through? How do you get to that
The next level.
that next level of like actually reaching people who don't know you in real life, who just love your music? That's every musician's goal, really, is to reach people through their music, independent of their, personal relationships. And well, I can't say every musician's goal, but a lot of people who want to
Dude,
start
if you're
bands,
no,
yeah,
if
you
you're
want
a
to reach
musician,
people with
that's
your
your
music,
goal.
yeah.
Man. Whether you like it or not, whether you realize it or not, it is your goal.
Right. So Matt and I, at that time, we were gonna play a show at the Whiskey, and we were getting a little bit disillusioned. Oh, well, we have to say, when we launched Incultus, we did make an impact because we opened for Mayhem. It was Mayhem, Keeper Callison, and who else?
That was at the Galaxy.
Hate,
dude.
yeah. Mayhem, Keeper Callison, and Hate. Yeah, that was at the Galaxy. So we sold we sold so many tickets because Brent sold tickets to like all of his high school friends, which was very, very helpful. And we played with Mayhem. We launched our EP. We actually started reaching people with that, which was really, really cool. But still only in a local way, right? And then we were like, okay, let's keep it going. How do we get to the next step? We were going to play a show at the Whiskey, and we were getting a little burnt out on shows because it was like, okay, we got to sell tickets, and we're playing with a band that maybe we'll have some fans that like us, maybe not. And so this was just a local show at the Whiskey, and it had this band called Anna Keffer, who was coming off their tour. And they weren't really a known band, but we could see they were at that next level that we wanted to be at. And we were like, they have really cool music. They had like clarinet and saxophone, but still with like a really progressive death metal approach and really good vocals, really good singing. And we were like, this is really cool. So we wanted to play with them. But when we looked at the bill for the show, we were like, wait, we don't want to be on this show. It was just a bunch of random bands, and we were going to be on first, and then there's going to be like 6 bands, and then Anna Keffer would be on. And it was like, there was a band on there called like the Star Teens or something, and it was like some pop thing. I was like, what is the booker thinking with this show? So we
He's trying to make money, dude.
Yeah,
That's it.
We dropped off that show, but the singer of Anna Keffer reached out to us and said, hey, we were really excited to play with you guys, because they had seen that we were going to be on the bill. And we were like, oh, well, cool, let's hook up. And they're like, yeah, we have a show here, like, come. And we were like, hell yeah. So we came to their show at Chain Reaction. Super awesome. We became really, really good friends with those guys, and they were doing things. They were much older. Singer at that time, Reese Lopez, was like in his 30s, and a lot of those guys were in their late 20s. So where we are now, right? So it's like, yeah, we could help out a 18-year-old who wants to get their band going. Like,
You would never. You don't play shows anymore.
right,
That would never fucking happen.
right.
Let's be
have
honest here.
We have the knowledge.
You have the capability.
We have the
yes.
knowledge to help somebody do that, because it's hard, man. You don't know what to do. You know that. Like, you have no idea where to start. So it was really, really cool. They kind of gave us a little bit of mentorship, showed us how to properly promote our stuff, who to reach out to. And at that time, it was still half traditional press, half digital press. that would actually get your music out there through the proper channels. So they taught us how to do that. All the while we were writing and recording Blessed He with Boils the same way we did in Cultus at Matt's house. And we were really finding our stride because we were just practicing every week. We were playing shows. We were just like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. We started playing shows with Anna Keffer, and it was like, yeah, this is really cool. Like we're going to make a big impact. And I think the reason Blessed He with Boils came out so well and kind of is our classic album.
It is your classic,
because we were
dude.
still playing as a band. We were always practicing. We were testing these songs, really as we wrote them and being like, yeah, okay, fine-tuning it. And then, but it did. We didn't really have much time for fine-tuning because we recorded it only in 1 year. From In Cultus to Blessed He was only 1 year.
Yeah, it is.
And that was a full-length album. And thankfully I had a lot of material that I had written that we just threw in there.
And it worked, dude. But
Yeah.
how did you get so symphonic on Blessed He as opposed to
Literally,
Cultus?
it was on In Cultus, I was playing any symphonic elements. I was playing on one patch, and I would try to play 2, maybe 3 parts at a time just on my keyboard, So you can only get so far. You can't mix the individual elements. Like, I would just pull up a string patch and play all the strings, hopefully get it all in on one, because I was really concerned with being able to play it live, right?
Right.
Right. So being able to perform it live was really important to us with In Cultus, just because there's just a lot of conceptions of like, well, we don't want to have canned music. We don't want to have tracks. We don't want to. And really, yeah, tracks aren't the best. It's best to have a live orchestra, right? But we didn't want to be perceived, still a lot of insecurities, right? Didn't want to be perceived as like, oh, we're cheating playing tracks or playing music that we can't physically play ourselves, right? So with Blessed He with Boils, Matt and I took more of a composer's approach where we said, okay, it doesn't matter if I can play 5 orchestra parts at a time myself and sing. That's not what's important. What's important is the impact of the music, right? And it's not about our egos. It's about like, what's the best music that we can make. And so that was with Blessed He with Boils. Literally, the only thing we changed was that I would record the orchestral parts, and we would record and write the orchestral parts each on their own track, pretty much. So, like for an orchestra, we would typically have 5 tracks: 2 violins, 1 viola, 1 cello, and 1 bass.
Wow.
And then all the other instruments on top of that. We didn't use much of the orchestra for Blessed He, but really, if you put a violin patch on over the top of metal, it sounds like symphonic metal. So it doesn't have to be full blown.
And I like your artwork for Blessed He with Boils.
Yeah,
I know
man.
Natasha did the artwork for it, but it was really the first time that I had ever seen an album cover without an album name or a logo on it.
Yeah, that was kind
So
of
that
our,
was
like,
kind of cool, dude. I kind of like
we
that.
thought the image was just kind of so striking that like I tried to put text on it, and I was like, screw this. Like, we'll have text, we'll have our name and stuff on the side. No one's going to be able to read our name anyways, because they're like going to be like like your mom, Xanthochroid.
Or they'll complain about it.
Yes,
like,
or Xanthro,
how it's a
or
dumb
like my
name,
dad,
whatever it
like my
is.
dad would always say Xanthrochroid, and just be like, okay, whatever. Let's just catch people's interest, because, dude, remember the days of going to Tower Records or to FYE
I do.
and just
Album
looking at an album cover that looks cool. Let's buy it. That's how Harry found Winter Sun. That's how I found Dissection. I was just like, which is funny because it was the same album artist. I just realized that.
Oh,
That's
I did
funny.
not know that.
Yeah, so it was just the art. Like, that looks cool. That looks like the type of music I want. And so we just said,
And it
okay,
worked.
let's take that element and
That concept and apply it to
and
what
just
Xanthochroid is.
apply it, and even drop our name, and it was about the art. Like, let's just make the coolest art. Let's just make the coolest music. Let's not make it like, oh, I'm the best shredding guitarist, which none of us are, but you know what I mean? It's like, just make it about the music and let it take off. And I think that's a big part of why Blessed He was really successful. Was
It still is, dude.
Yeah.
It still gets talked about compared to with other albums. I sent you one where it was like, oh yeah, look, this album concept or this album got compared to your guys' album that came out, 5
Yeah.
years after.
I know,
And it's
yeah,
like,
that
oh,
was
cool,
cool.
this is cool,
Yeah.
So, what was it like to record the record itself at Matt's place?
It just happened in pieces, really slowly, because Matt had his little studio set up. So whenever we wrote something, we would record like scratch track of like, okay, let's piece it together, and then I would typically be the one doing the song structures and like, okay, let's put this together. So we would typically have guitar tracks, some piano, and some drum machine, and that would be our pre-production. So over the course of a year, we put that together, and then I think probably over a month and a half, 2 months, we did the final recording. So Matt set up his drums in his room, and we mic'd those up. And I was the engineer for that, which is not a good idea, because I botched an entire song once that he had to re-record because I didn't notice the snare mic wasn't on.
Wow.
He was not happy about that, neither were his neighbors. So we recorded the drums in his room. And once you have the drums recorded, it's like, okay, now we can hone in, focus on the rest of these things. So basically we taught Brent and David the guitar parts as they recorded them. And at that time that worked out really well. They and they added their own bits of creativity where it fit and stuff like that. And
how did you go about writing like a particular track for that though? Like where did you start as did you start with like the riff, the I don't know, the piano piece first? Like how did you
The time of Blessed He, I started focusing more on guitar first. So I would write the guitar as the bones of the song and then decorate it with piano. But a song like, let's see, on Blessed He, a song like, let's think. I'm going through the songs in my head right now, thinking which one did I start with keyboard rather than guitar.
Well, the title track had definitely started with
Obviously,
guitar.
because it's all orchestral, so that was all keyboard driven. There are actually no songs. All the songs were guitar first. Whereas, like on Incultus, I would say the song Wormwood was keyboard first, and all that. But it was just my development as a composer. For some reason, doing the guitar as the bones and building on top of that worked.
Just the easiest.
It worked best for our style. Being locked into trying to write a riff around a piano part is a little bit stranger. But it happened on Earth and Accent for sure.
So when the initial reception was fucking amazing, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fucking amazing.
Thanks to who I was talking about, Anna Keffer, and especially Reese. He really walked us through and mentored us on how to get our stuff out. Who to contact for press. And, it wasn't any one person in particular. It was just, learning how to do a press release and get it through those proper channels, which do not work the same way anymore. So
no.
Just putting that out there, but it worked at that time. It was kind of on the tail end of like traditional press still being a prominent thing.
Nowadays it's all digital. So
yeah, and it's even that those like nobody even follows those digital publications really anymore.
It's kind of the end of an era because I remember having to do the same thing. I'll still go through the proper channels that what I originally go through, but it's not the same as when you were doing it in 2012.
And you have to remember too, it's just there's things you can't control. Like you can do all the stuff, you can spend a lot of money on it too, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go anywhere. With Blessed He, it was a timing thing.
Musically, it clicked with people.
It clicked with people. It was it just feels like a really focused album.
And
we did the Winter Sun cover.
Well, I'm going to get to that too.
Exploded and gave us a lot of momentum because we're sending out to press and people are seeing that we have this video that's getting a lot of views and attention, and so it was a perfect storm. And those are the things where it's like, okay, yeah, you get a really good PR agency and they can kind of try to like really create something like that, replicate it, but yeah, it's tough to do.
Well, your music has to click with people. Yours and Blessed clicked, and it still does. It's fucking awesome to see, by the way. But I wanted to know how you got into BlizzCon, because you had played a concert at BlizzCon. Because I'm not going to say particularly because of the Winter Sun cover, but that was a big part of it. But I really feel there were other aspects as to how it came about.
Yeah, it was a quick decision. We were on our tour, our first and only tour.
I was going to say the only tour.
Yeah, first and only tour in 2013 of the West Coast. So that was following Blessed He. We were all on a high, just of the reception of that. People were super stoked that we were doing that tour. We got to play with a lot of cool bands. We met a lot of cool friends that we're still friends with on that tour. And at the end of the tour, Matt was like, "Oh, hey," because he's always been really plugged into the Blizzard world. Tasha, his fiance, works there now. So, and he's just always been a big World of Warcraft fan and everything. So he's like, "Hey, Blizzard is doing a talent contest at BlizzCon. Like, we should submit." And they had just a submission process, really. And it's like, let's make a video. For whatever reason, Matt and I were the only ones interested in doing it, like doing the video. I remember that day, and this is how a lot of things in Xanthochroid happen. It would just be like, "Hey, come over right now. Let's do XYZ." And it was just like, okay. And if you couldn't come, then okay, we're doing it. We're just doing it. So in some ways, in retrospect, not the best way to run a band. You want to include all the members if they want to be included. Yes, but at the same time, people need to meet your enthusiasm level.
True.
Yeah.
But if they don't, then...
So, anyways, I'm only saying that because sometimes I feel like, hey, we should have involved the whole band. And
No
maybe
way.
we would have even had a better turnout. But it turned out just being me and Matt and finding a song in the video game World of Warcraft that we really liked, had like a really cool feeling to it, doing our own version of it. I wrote lyrics to it. It didn't originally have lyrics. Shot a little video, and lo and behold, and on the back of having so many fans, they did a voting process on the submissions. So we got into like semifinals because our video was well produced, and the song sounded good and was related to World of Warcraft. We ticked all the boxes, and then they opened it up to voting. Well, we had just got a pretty significant following, so we kind of destroyed the voting. We were like, boom, we're in. So we got into the finals, which meant that we got to perform at BlizzCon, which was the coolest experience. It's how I met my wife. So
Really?
I have BlizzCon to thank for my daughter and wife now and all future children that I will have.
That's great, dude.
And so it was really cool.
The experience, like, how many people did you play in front of?
It was like 20,000 at the convention,
Wow.
and it was broadcast on TV. And by the way, we did very badly. We did very poorly. It was our first experience with that level of production on stage, and we weren't ready for... We had done a sound check like days before the performance, and so they had made a mix for our ears. We had in-ear monitors, and then when we got there, it was like there were 20,000 people, so we needed to
Wow.
amp up the energy, but we kind of didn't. And we just played very softly. And you can probably find Xanthochroid 2013 BlizzCon performance and see how softly and gently we played.
Wow,
So it was
dude.
pretty funny. But we loved it. They got us out. It was only in Anaheim, but they got us a hotel. So we had a hotel. We had, for the whole week. And,
That's great, though,
we
dude.
got
What a cool
passes to the
experience.
convention. It was so much fun. It was really one of the coolest things. Yeah.
And how did you? I guess what were you doing in between the BlizzCon thing and Of Earth and Accent, because it had been a 4-year fucking ride for you, dude. Like
Between BlizzCon, 4 years.
it was 2013 to 2017.
Yeah, I mean, how can I summarize that? Matt got a position at the company that he is now a partner at, Hex, and lead composer is Hexany Audio, and that was a full-time gig in LA. So, we live in Orange County to LA. It's a big commute, 9 to 5 type of job. So that was his gig. And so writing Of Earth and Accent and being a band, and there were a lot of things, and it is not anybody's there is no blame to be placed on anybody. It's just what happens. And a lot of bands will tell you the same kind of story. It's like, hey, well, so-and-so got married, so-and-so had a baby, so-and-so needed to go back to school, because as you get older, you start to see, like,
It's life, dude.
yeah, and you see things how it's like, wait, this didn't go where it was supposed to be going, you know? Like, we're not making any money, first of all, and it's like, yeah, it's our passion, but hey, can't live, you can't live dependent on somebody forever, and it's just like, hi. So things happen, and both Matt and I were at that point in our lives where, hey, we had to make it work, and devoting all of our time to a band is like, it's very hard to do. I was very, very dedicated to completing the album, and Matt was as well. So I'm always forever grateful for his continued commitment to that throughout his developing his career. And in those years, he went from starting out as a sorry, I know I talk a lot, but
No.
Yeah.
I will fill in the gaps where
he
I'm
went from
supposed to.
starting out as basically a grunt at the company doing whatever they would make him do, like
All
sound
the crap-
effects and
crap work is what it is.
implementation and
Yeah.
just like all this technical stuff, like moving files between servers and stuff, and to now he's the lead composer and a partner in the company.
That's
so
great,
it's
dude.
like, it's amazing. And during that time, he helped me put out, Of Earth and Accent, which he
classic too,
contributed most musically, and is like, it was what I always wanted to. It was my final. I gotta say this with
Right.
Xanthochroid.
Why did you guys end up stop playing live shows though? Did it get too much? Was it the songs weren't being represented
I'll
properly
just tell you.
live?
I'll just tell you the absolute truth. So, we did BlizzCon. And like I said, it was something where I wanted to include the whole band, but it was a quick decision when we did the video, and we did the video with only Matt and I, and it was like, okay, well, I guess Matt and I are doing BlizzCon. I've actually never talked to some of the guys about this, so they can talk to me if they want. I don't know if they felt excluded from that experience. And we had, I think 2 more shows after that. We played, our last show was at the Black Castle in 2014. And actually a week prior to that, Sean, our original drummer, who I was still best friends with, his fiance, died.
Yeah.
And so
terrible.
it was a really emotional time. And then following that, Brent and David had a falling out.
With a lady?
Yeah, with a lady was involved, so they weren't speaking to each other, and I basically had to kick David out of the band. And then it was just like, oh my gosh, where are we? We're out a guitarist. Things are very fragile in my own life. Matt is pursuing other
Aspects
his
of
own career, and it was just like, yeah, where do we go? Where do we go from here? The wind was taken out of our sails. So that's like the absolute truth. I may have never even said that, made an announcement. I think it was hard for me at that time to make that announcement because I didn't want Xanthochroid to die. And so I kept it limping along for another 3.5 years, to get this album out,
I think I always envisioned you guys as a studio band.
Yeah, that's what it became.
Just because live, I remember we played some shows, but live it was more it was almost too much. You had so much going on to where a live show couldn't do it justice.
Well,
so,
the live shows at our level of the level of production that these venues could provide, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It didn't do it justice.
Yeah.
So I think I
and
always
then
thought
we
that
wanted
was,
to go bigger, and it was like, okay, this is just out of the question now.
right. That's what I had always thought. That was a part of it. And then the other aspect is all the politics involved in it.
Yeah, right.
Show up on this time.
Yeah.
Touring sucks. It's awesome, but it sucks at the same time.
Dude, you'll ask anybody who's tour. It's like, look, there's an interview.
But it's great. But it's very. How do I?
While you're doing
doing it, it's fun. But I'm saying all the logistics to it. It's not. Sometimes it's not
big
worth it. It's a big sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice of everything. The older
if you're
you
having
get,
kids, if you're getting married, deaths in the family, it all excludes that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
just a matter of how much you want to sacrifice.
Yeah.
But there's a way in 2019 to do a band and not have to tour anymore. You know.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can do, and I always
to save it to
respected that about you guys. Like that, I
Yeah.
always used your guys' philosophy into our stuff. Is
Yeah.
you know, you can make studio records and don't have to tour.
Yeah.
You can play the shows you want to play if you ever want to play them again.
Yeah, and if anybody's really interested in that type of strategy, that there are people who do that and who do it very well and who aren't huge artists. You know, of course, like if
Dark
you're
Throne.
Yeah, that, you know, but of course, like if you're a very big band, you don't have to. Hopefully, if you've managed your resources correctly, you don't have to tour. Man, you give me this. I got kombucha and beer, just like making me burp all the time, but which I'm not complaining about, but I'm very grateful for. What was I even saying? Yeah, if you've managed your resources correctly as a very well-established band, you don't have to tour like, you know, do 200 shows a year. You know, you can pick and choose. Like, yeah, let's do this festival. Let's do this
And that's what it's
6-day
about
tour.
nowadays. It's about the weekend
Yeah.
warrior type.
And if anybody's
stuff.
really interested in applying that sort of method to their own band, you should look up a woman. She's named Leah McHenry, and she has a lot of she does that very successfully with her music. It's kind of like a, I don't know, Celtic female-led metal-ish stuff. But she's very, very smart, and she has really, really good advice on how to manage doing something like that. And she has the evidence and proof to back it up. So if anybody's interested in that, she's a good person to listen to, Leah McHenry.
So, what was the reception like for both Earth and Action and Earth and Action 2? Because it's pretty much a...
Do you have a cricket sound effect?
No. I loved it. I mean, I know the first one had gotten, like, not as much as what I would have liked to have seen. It was more, because it was more mellow, if I can say that.
Oh, yeah. The first one, the flow of it, in retrospect, is takes a bit of patience. You'll be rewarded with the last track. Just putting that out there.
Right. Well,
you know that.
I loved it just because it was mellow. Like, the tracks were all mellow.
Yeah.
There's symphonic stuff. The second track is awesome.
It's very meaty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes into this, like, wave, and then it ends really on a high note. And then the second one, I thought more people liked the second one as opposed to the first, just because it was more meaty.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but
yeah.
I mean, the fact that you put them both together into like a vinyl box set is great because you get both.
Yeah, I'm very proud of this the vinyl collection, which I did sign for you.
I appreciate
Did you read
it.
what it says?
Yes, I did.
Two
sir.
Tanner brothers forever.
Sam,
That's
I
right.
appreciate it. But the thing is you recorded it at the same time, but just decided because it was too long, it was going to be like a 90-minute record originally, and then you just decided to split it up.
I think it was pretty early on. We knew it was going to be two. Matthew was always pulling for doing it like giving each one their own independent release that was like more like maybe a whole year apart. And I always had this vision of like doing a double album with a shorter gap between the volumes to build up this anticipation, but not to lose the enthusiasm for it between. So yeah, I mean, dude, those whole 3 years were just pouring myself into this music, learning much, much more about production and orchestral writing and just like really approaching this too as including a lot of our lore, which, you know, there's a whole story that goes, it's like a fantasy story that flows throughout each song, which we took from Blessed He and made it much more detailed and, and much more.
There's also a board
fluid
game that comes with this.
Right. There's a board game inside the vinyl that our friends at Doc and Kruger designed for us. It's very cool. It's about attaining the crown, the old crown that grants you the power to sit atop the throne of Septentria and rule the world.
I think what we're going to have to do is do like a live broadcast where me and you play it.
We should have been playing this whole time.
We should have been
but
playing this whole time,
It is hard to focus and do that.
But lastly too, where are you guys at nowadays? And then we'll get into random topics. I have some stuff that I would like to talk about after the Xanthochroid story, but
Okay,
I wanted to
cool.
get the Xanthochroid story.
Let's get the story. So nowadays, I'm starting my own composing adventure. I've done music for a mobile game, for like an iPhone game. I'm gonna do more music like that, and that's again, it's not something that I'll be like promoting so much as like, oh, go buy my soundtrack for this mobile game. Maybe in the future, but this is more for my own career
so
as a composer.
you're doing more behind the scenes kind of things.
I'm going on the industry side of things, where I'll kind of be a part of the game industry. I'd like to do some film. We'll see where it goes, but just for my own career as a composer, because that is what I love to do, is compose music.
That's what you're best at. You're a genius in it as far as that.
Thank you, man. And so that's where I'm going. Matt is obviously, he has his own company. He's the lead composer for, so he's doing that as well, which is awesome. We're all doing our own things. Brent's continuing his studies at school, and those were the three of us. My wife is my wife. She was a part of the last album.
Big shout out to Tally, by the way.
She's a mom
please tell
now.
her I said hello.
Yeah, I will.
Please tell her I said
You'll
hello.
probably see her this week. But she's a mom now, and she still sings. She still has an amazing voice, and that's where it was. But she was, she contributed vocals to the last album. So really, the three people who were involved.
Albums.
Yeah.
2 albums.
Right. Really, the people who were involved were myself, Matt, and Brent, and that's really where it is, man. We're going different places. I hope to do
a fourth Xanthochroid record.
I hope to
at
do a
some
fourth
point?
Xanthochroid record. What it really would be like kind of a journey through the world of Edimos, where we visit these different cultures, and we have like lots of music that is its own, like it represents its own culture in the fantasy world of Edimos. But
what aspects would you actually want to add to the fourth record as opposed to these?
I'm not going to say. I'm not
yeah.
going to say. It would just I don't know.
Where could you take it from there?
Yeah, I don't know. It'll come in time. I'd like to do that, and we'll see who would continue to be involved in Xanthochroid at that point. But it's been a journey, man. Like Xanthochroid was my whole identity for
a number of years, dude.
Yeah, for 12, 13 years. So it's like, whoa, it's a lot to come away from. Now I'm a father.
You've replaced it with that stuff, which is great. I mean, it's not anything to knock
but it's
or anything, but
it's also it's just a process of growth now, figuring out who I am, who I can be as a composer,
how you can grow.
Yeah,
as a
how I
composer.
can grow, how I can, what projects that I can contribute my own unique vision to and my own experience and stuff. So
speaking of that, I would like to get into the Death Code Society, and I know you did some some vocals for one of the tracks on them? I think they're from Finland. I was doing some research.
I think he's from French Canada or from France. He's always posting in French, so I'm pretty sure from what I remember. This was still years ago.
But how did you get hooked up with that?
Oh, he was just a fan of Xanthochroid.
Oh,
and,
cool.
yeah, he wanted me to contribute vocals. So that was many years ago, though. But
it was 2015 it came out, so I just wanted to ask.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that was fun. Yeah, I've always enjoyed doing that. I've also contributed to The Chemical Mind, which that's a fan of ours, Nick Kruger. That's his project. And I'll be contributing to some other projects as well. But again, that's a... comes down to how well I can manage my time doing those sorts of things.
Well, you also did. Oh my god, I can't even fucking pronounce this. Some choirs for the Space Beast EP from Nibiru.
The Nibiru Effect, yeah.
Nibiru Ordeal.
Yeah. I wrote those choirs, and Matt helped out with that, and yeah, it was fun. I do love if anybody wants choral. Like arrangements, vocal harmonies for their music, hit me up because I do love doing that. Yeah.
Well, you do. I mean, and obviously, you do fucking everything under the sun as far as symphonic goes because you do keyboards. You're going to be doing keyboards on our next record, which I'm fucking stoked,
It'll
dude.
be really cool.
It's about time we get to do something on the same record.
Well, dude, Vigorous Infiltration, come on. Don't forget about the originals.
The classic. We still haven't released that. I don't even think your fans know that.
No.
Yeah, that maybe they would dig that. I think they would.
That would be cool.
It would be cool to do something.
Yeah,
like
don't you have it on a cassette?
I do. I have it on a CD.
Oh,
'cause
nice.
Hogs used to give them out.
Okay.
But lastly, I wanted to talk about Epic Dragon.
We've got to talk to Samu about that one because, man, it's not something that Sam really knows anything about. So,
Well, dude, it started out as like a fucking
yeah,
a joke, dude.
Oh yeah,
It was
and
a
now
total
it's.
joke.
I think I might like it even more than Xanthochroid, to be honest. So
It was like Children of Bodom, Northern.
yeah,
when
we
that stuff was
just all those
popular.
bands that we really kind of got us into the extreme melodic metal. Children of Bodom, Northern, like even a little bit of Nightwish, like Dragon Force, and those bands. It was like there was a scene there in the early 2000s where all these bands came out with this brand of metal, and we were like, we all liked it. So especially me and Matt and our friend Sayer, who's an amazing guitarist. We all really liked that, and we were like, what? Like, what is that music? Like, what do we call it? Because it was always like melodic death metal. It's like, no, that's not what it is. And we just kind of decided that it's dragon metal.
Dragon metal. So you had wanted to start a band
Yeah.
and
So,
call it this is dragon
yeah.
metal.
And the foundational elements are a keyboard patch that sounds like bells and glass. Really catchy guitar riffs, ridiculously fast double bass drumming, and very, very poorly constructed English lyrics because most of their first languages are Finnish.
Right.
And we decided that we would be from Estonia because we had never heard of a band from Estonia, but it's right next to Finland, so why the hell not?
I always thought of Encino Man.
That's right. Yeah,
Estonia.
Brendan Fraser pretends to be from Estonia. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. I think because the stone makes you think of caveman.
Epic Dragon. But it's just funny that like it's taken on like a life of its own. Is there any vinyl releases planned for
we'll see.
Pangaea or fucking Epic Dragon? Is Blood
No,
Music
man.
gonna like come on here and be like, dude, I
Dude.
want to press that
No.
fucking that Pangaea demo. I would love to
No.
have a copy if it's like this big.
I want to do this thing at some point in our life called Dragon Camp. And basically we would just like rent a cabin in the mountains in the middle of winter and actually write and produce a full-blown like Epic Dragon album, and we'd have a lot of fun doing it. And Epic Dragon, just like Xanthochroid, has its own ridiculous mythology behind it, where Allosaur is basically the king of the dragons who's flying around in space, teaching all the other dragons to gather enough meteors to come to destroy the Earth.
Well, dude, if you need another fellow vocalist,
I'm
down.
Yeah, we'll have to make it a group
effort.
all contributions welcome.
So now that we got kind of like your whole musical career going,
Yeah.
out of not out of the way, but it's it's finished pretty much right now. I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on kind of like what's going on nowadays with the whole metal community, because you've been out of it a few years,
Yeah.
but you still have some knowledge, I suppose, like when it comes to interviewers and stuff. I know we had talked about it. Like,
I wanted to talk about this. So, we talked about Blessed He, the success with that traditional and digital press, and then with Earth and Axon, I exaggerated. It wasn't crickets, but I was expecting like a reaction on the level of Blessed He that would be exponential, because we would have put out that album and multiplied our success with Earth and Axon. It's not really what happened. It was almost less of a reaction, and I came to find that it was really kind of a result of the downfall of traditional media and traditional press. So sending out our music to all of these music review sites and magazines and stuff, it's like, okay, that doesn't have the same impact because people are not plugged into those channels as much anymore. Everybody, if you're going on the internet, you're going to Facebook or YouTube
or Spotify or
yeah,
like
right.
streaming
Spotify
services.
is how a lot of people discover music nowadays. It's not from reviews. Like, even I wonder, not that I've done any analysis or research on this, but like I really even wonder how a site like Pitchfork is even doing anymore.
Oh, I don't even know what that site is.
Oh,
dude.
it was one of the biggest music. It wasn't just metal, but they would include metal. It was more of like an indie. It was kind of the end all be all for indie music reviews, and it was very, very highly like respected. So I even wonder how a site like that does anymore as far as connecting people with, because people always want new music, and it seems like Spotify is kind of at the top there, but it's like, man, that's a very convoluted way to try to get your music out there. There's a lot of
there's so many bands on that
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
How do you even set yourself apart when it comes to
exactly. So anyways, but one of the things that would happen, and I was happy to do it for the first few years, was when somebody would ask for an interview, and they'd be like, hey, I want to interview you, after you send out your press release. And you're like, yeah, okay, like that'll help because, we need to have an interview, tell everybody, like get people excited for what they can expect in the album and everything. But they would always just send, it wasn't an interview like this. Like, this is a real interview. I'm on the spot responding.
This is a
live.
real interview? I'm just fucking talking right now. What do you mean
But
a
this
real
is.
interview?
I'm on the spot responding with my own thoughts and feelings, like live.
It's a different. This is a different
expressing
kind
it.
of interview, dude. The podcasting world is a different kind of interview as opposed to the stuff I think that you're going with.
Yeah. So people would ask for an interview, and it's like, it wasn't a phone call. It definitely wasn't a video chat. It definitely wasn't in person. And it definitely was basically a list of 20 questions that you have to write an essay.
It's like a
to
homework
answer.
assignment.
So it was
dude.
like, oh my gosh. And they're asking you the same questions that basically your website would tell anybody. And it's like, a lot of times these people had really good heart and were coming from
a good place.
Yeah, good place. But it was like, it almost was like, okay, wait, how many people read your blog? And like, who's going to read this? And why do I have to write a whole essay? I started to get a little bit annoyed at like, oh yeah, do an interview. I'm like, this isn't an interview. This is an essay.
Right.
Like, you're not getting my real, like, my actual thoughts. And I'm not like telling you like how I came up with something. I'm typing it, and it's a very different thing.
I think it's a very monotonous and mundane fucking way
Yeah.
of doing press.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is the way to do it, man. And if you can't be in person, then use a video call or
Use a
something.
Skype or whatever.
So
But I had just appreciated something that you told me over the phone, which was like, this is the new way to do
yeah,
actual interviews is podcasting,
yeah,
and I'm with you too. I got so sick of it, of people asking
Yeah.
me the same fucking 10 questions for Madrost,
yeah,
that I was like, I'm going to start my own,
yeah,
and I'm going to do it better.
yeah. No, you're doing great.
And I'm not saying I'm doing it better, but
No.
you know what? That was my main goal, and I'm fucking still striving to fucking do it better.
You're
every
doing
day.
it better. You're doing it as good or better than Joe the Toe Rogan. And
Oh,
only,
I like Joe Rogan,
only,
dude. I like he's very influential as how I got into this.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, if he can do it, I mean, I can do it for the metal community, because let's face it, dude, and you've been around a long time. I've said this on countless interviews, and I'll say it again. There's many bands around here. There's many musicians. There's nobody capturing the history of this.
Yeah,
And I wanted to be the guy, and I am
Dude,
the guy.
I love it, man.
How sad is that? Do you know what I mean?
Well,
There's-
that's how.
there needs to be other people that do this, but
Yeah,
I just saw an opportunity, and I was like, well, why isn't anybody else kind of capitalizing
yeah,
on this?
yeah. It's great. That's how you do. That's how you make a name. That's how you name.
I'm not
make
making a
place.
name.
But that's how you
It's
make a
just-
place for yourself.
Well, true,
Yeah.
but I was just really frustrated with the whole thing, the whole
Yeah.
climate of like the music industry. It's like,
Yeah,
dude, you have so many of these bands still around and so many new ones, but nobody's like capitalizing on
yeah,
on,
and nobody's
on how
connecting
they can,
them or
yeah.
creating community. It's super
Yeah.
cool, man.
I'm just, and I know you guys have gone away, but I'm still here, so I
Yeah.
wanted to still be a part of
yeah,
whatever was happening here,
Yeah.
and I'm just grateful to have heard that from you. It's like, this is the way to fucking do it,
yeah, yeah. I really
because
stand
I
by
agree
that.
with you, dude. I agree that interviews, like the essay thing, it's very kind of old school and mundane.
Well,
It's just
yeah,
like,
it's like
it's not
who's gonna-
necessary
Who's
anymore.
gonna read that and be interested in it? It's very silly, I think.
I think so too, man.
Yeah.
What other topic? You had another topic you wanted to discuss, I thought, with me too, where I'm blanking right now. That's
Okay.
what happens when I drink alcohol. So.
Yeah. Well, there was the traditional press really going away. I mean, and how that impacted, I think, the release of Earth and Axon. of course, it's always about the music and
Yeah, but I
you
think
know,
that
how
cover. I think the cover actually like fucking brought up "Blessed He with Boils" too.
Oh yeah,
with,
yeah.
with-
And of course, we didn't have anything like that.
You didn't, so
Yeah.
that was like another aspect to how
yeah,
that whole thing.
Yeah, the Winter Sun cover.
You had almost gone into or gotten signed to Nuclear Blast.
I wouldn't say that, but we had let's say we had dealings.
Right.
We had dealings on multiple occasions with Nuclear Blast. So yeah, we can always talk about this. So right before Blessed He with Boils came out, I mean, here's another thing that made that have a big splash is that our guitarist Brent made a video series called 21 Days of Xanthochristmas. And so Blessed He with Boils came out on the 21st of December. So every single day leading up to that, we released a new video. And a lot of times it was not a music video. It was just like a video of us like goofing around, which was really, really smart. It's how a lot of people got to know our personalities and to see like we make this really serious, epic music, but we're a bunch of like goofy dorks who are just making stupid jokes and like talking in stupid voices. Like, you know, like it really gave people like a glimpse into who we were. And I mean,
Well, yeah, it made people click with you guys more. It made
Yeah.
people more. I don't
And-
know what the word is.
yeah,
like,
but there were some music videos. Among them
They can
were
relate to you guys.
Yeah. Among them was a cover of Winter Sun's The Land of Snow and Sorrow. And that just like, that couldn't have come out at a more perfect time. Their album had launched the month before. So a month after it came out, we did an acoustic folk cover of one of the 3 songs on their album. So, and my now wife got them to share. She knew one of the band members, Timu. She like had talked to him and kind of like flirted with him hey, this was before we were together. Flirted with him at their show. And so she messaged him our video, and we believe that he got it shared on the Winter Sun page.
That's
and
great,
back then too, it was different. Like it got a huge level of engagement. Like just sharing on their page reached hundreds of thousands of people. So like that was crazy. It went viral in a metal sense, you know, not like millions, but hundreds of thousands of views.
A lot of people.
And it was just like, whoa, that really skyrocketed us into like the online discovery platform in place that time, which was just fledgling. But yeah, and then how did that relate to what we were saying? So
It doesn't. It's just
Yeah.
the topic that we're talking about.
yeah.
The nuclear blast.
Nuclear Blast.
thing.
So yeah, so it caught Nuclear Blast's attention. The next year, Winter Sun was doing their first U.S. tour, and we thought Nuclear Blast was contacting us to do. They wanted us to do another cover that would like help promote the tour, just to get more buzz going or whatever. Really, what it was one girl who worked for Nuclear Blast was like, oh, we should do this, and she didn't get any clearance from like her superiors. And so, like, she brought us. It was a really cool experience. Still, she like contacted us. She brought us out to the YouTube space in LA, which is a really cool building, and you know, we shot a video in there, but it was very poorly done. You know, she was the only Nuclear Blast employee that was there, and then she had her sister and her sister's boyfriend. Like, her sister's boyfriend was holding the boom mic, and her sister was filming, and she was like directing. So we didn't have proper like recording. Anyways, it was a cover of the song Sleeping Stars. You can hear our studio version if you search that on YouTube. But, like, you can't see the video from Nuclear Blast because they own it and they posted it and then took it down, and we never got it. So it was really weird because she didn't get approval to do that. And then we thought it was going to be huge. We're like, oh, sweet. We went to Nuclear Blast. We met people at Nuclear
Right.
Blast. They're like, they know about us. Like, let's see what happens. And then it was like, they were like, who are these guys? We didn't approve these guys. And I guess we said something in our little interview where we're like, yeah, we're going to steal Winter Sun's fans, where they were like, oh no, blah. It's like some corporate
Politics. It's
Yeah,
called
some
politics,
corporate
dude.
politics prevented us from having actual talks with Nuclear Blast. So anyways, that went nowhere. And then just to kind of put the nail in the coffin, we made a fake Dimmu Borgir song.
That's great, dude.
On-
I always love this story.
Yeah, on April Fools of 2014, I had the bright idea to create a fake Dimmu Borgir song because they hadn't released an album for years.
And I don't think they had. I don't think they have.
Yeah,
still.
they have, but yeah.
Oh, have they?
Yeah,
Man,
they did, but
obviously I've
I don't
been
even
out of the
remember
loop.
what it's called. Yeah, and maybe it came out in 20.
But you did it like a day before.
We did it like a few days after April Fool's, so like people didn't get that it was April Fool's, and really it was because I hatched the idea a little bit too late. It was like the night before, and I was like, look, let's just make a post that something special is coming, and we'll make that post on April Fool's. But then we posted the thing like almost a week later because it took us that long to produce it. But anyways, the song is called Bipartisan Apostasy. It took on a life of its own and was shared all over YouTube.
Dude,
And
people still...
some guy even made a music video for it. It's awesome.
Didn't Nuclear Blast like
Yeah,
get wind of this and
yeah,
say,
so
this
we
is
put
not
it-
Demon?
Yeah, we put...
But they shared it anyways?
No. But people started sharing it. It went pretty viral. It got like over 130,000 views in the first day.
Wow.
So, and it was just like Dimmu Borgir, Bipartisan Apostasy. And the only tag we had was like featuring Matthew Earl. Because he was the new Vortex, their old bassist,
Oh,
who had
that's
long
funny.
blonde hair, who sang. So we were like, yeah, they replaced Vortex with Matthew Earl from Xanthochroid. And it was just, I mean, it really was. It was just a big joke.
That's
and
great.
I actually got, it's actually really interesting, if you don't mind me talking about this
Sure.
for a little while.
Yeah, go for it.
I remember, and my wife could tell you this too. I really made this happen. Like, yeah, like Matt and I worked on it together, but I was like, no, we have to do this. Like, this is going to be awesome. And I even contacted a blog, who I was friends with the guy who ran it, and I was like, hey, can you please post this and say this? And it was like, oh, we weren't supposed, like, I had him make this blog post on his site that was called Kosher Metal. And it's an actual, like, you know, metal blog. And I was like, can you do this for me, like, for April Fool's? Make a post that makes it seem like Kosher Metal got access to an early press release Dimmu Borgir song from their upcoming album that they haven't told anybody about. So
Right.
he made an actual post, and that's what made people believe that it was really real. It's funny, but the night I did it, I got super nervous. Like, I was putting all the things in place. I was writing like these fake press releases. I was, you know, making sure that my friend was going to post it. I was preparing all the posts and videos, and like, I even made album art for it. The album art is still floating out around there. And Matt and I made this cool video that was like motion art that got taken down, but like, I got really nervous. Like, when I pressed post, I was like, oh my gosh. It was a really weird feeling where I was just like, oh, wow. I just like sent a lie. I just like birthed a really lie that people are going to believe into the world, which as time goes on, and you know, like the whole fake news thing, the whole fake news phenomenon, it gives me like a really sharp insight into how that works, because it did work. We didn't do we didn't cover all our bases in terms of making sure people thought it was real, but it showed me how that's possible. It's very easy to deceive a big population, especially when you're coming from the top down, when you're like, oh, let's put it here on this respected blog. Let's put it here on this respected site. Let's say these words in this order, and people will believe.
It's like Firefest.
Yeah, oh yeah. Right. On the islands. Yeah.
People
yeah.
are fucking morons. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, you're fucking morons.
Yeah, but
That's
it's
what the majority are.
I mean, that I'll never forget the way I felt like that night doing that, and knowing that I was putting out like this big deception like into the world that people believed, at least for a couple, like at the most for a couple weeks, and at least for a day. People
That's
really
insane, dude.
people really believed it. And there were people on the original post, there were people arguing like, I've been listening to Dimmu Borgir for 10 years. This is absolutely Shaggrass' voice. Like, there's no way that this isn't Dimmu Borgir. And some people were in the know. Some people were just like, this song sucks. And some people were like, this is better than anything Dimmu's done in the past 10 years. They should go back to the puritanical era, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's how it works. That's what they do with fake news and in politics too. It's just like,
Because
they
people
just
are so
they
gullible, dude.
yeah, they just put something there, whether it's true or not. People will argue about it,
Yeah.
and then it becomes
That
real.
that
It
creates the
becomes
buzz.
real, whether it's true or not. So, anyways, it's a little insight that I learned from doing that. Nevertheless, it was really fun doing it, and now people found out about Xanthochroid from it, and some people got mad, which I just think is funny, and some people were just like, "Hey, that was clever," and they liked us for it because I wasn't telling people that like we should go to war with some country. I was telling people that
Well, you had gotten a cease and desist because you had used
Right,
the logo.
right.
That was
So
the only thing that they could get you
we
on.
created a new YouTube channel to post it on, and yeah, Nuclear Blast hit us with a cease and desist, which is what I call the final nail in the coffin for our dealings with Nuclear Blast. And from there on, we're like, look, we're an independent band. Like, we'd had dealings with Nuclear Blast, we'd been offered a deal by Blood Music, and it was just it was so ridiculous to approach us and to be like, well, look, here's your deal. We'll give you 25% of the earnings of this thing that you made. It's like, no, like that is not how business should work. So, and unfortunately a lot of bands take it, and
It's 'cause they're forced to. They think that's the only way
Right.
that they could succeed.
And when you look at it over time, a lot of bands still make it work anyways. They're like, okay, but we'll make more albums, and we'll make more albums, and we'll get better deals. But that was hard. It's hard to do when you just created something that you really slaved over and poured yourself into, and then somebody comes along and says, "Oh yeah, we'll take it on if you give us all the earnings,
All your
but
rights and-
but yeah,
yeah.
we'll let you play with such and such band." It's like, come
No,
on,
thank
man.
you. And sometimes they shelve it too. They have the right to shelve it, so it's not even worth it at that aspect.
That's the scariest part is they'll even pay you money and then just
Fucking
kill it.
scrap the album because
It's
they don't.
bizarre.
Yeah,
Because it doesn't fit
their agenda or whatever. But no, it's kind of why I haven't signed with anybody.
Yeah.
Like I just do what I do
Yeah.
right now, and I know it's like not the most smart decision, but to me,
Maybe not.
but
I
to
think
me
it's
it
maybe
is,
the most smart decision.
but it's we're still around,
Yeah.
so it's accounted for some aspect. But
Yeah.
I always felt like music should be the most important thing.
Yeah.
I know obviously it's the music business, it's not music friends, but there's a way that you could still make the music you want to make, but still be successful at it.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
about how you market yourself
Right.
and the avenues. And what you had said, people are gullible. It's
Yeah.
the absolute truth.
Yeah. They are. Yeah. Well, so anyways,
Look what just happened with the Chappelle special. How he told the truth, and everyone's fucking just up in arms.
Yeah.
And there's the whole other side where I'm at, where I'm like, dude, it's fucking comedy. Tell the truth. That's great. If
well, yeah.
you're,
I think comedy's pretty dead if you watch any of the Netflix specials and stuff. And like Dave Chappelle, he's probably one of the most talented comedians yet. You can
most
still
important comedians.
Yeah, and very talented too, very creative. But you can still see how, the people can't even appreciate comedy, much less art, for what it is.
That's why it
Yeah.
ties into all this stuff. Like what you're doing with the Demu,
Yeah,
the fake Demu song.
yeah,
It's the same thing.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's kind of my philosophy these days is just tell the truth, tell people what you think, and see where it leads you, and trust that it's going to lead you somewhere better, rather than telling a lie to protect yourself from somebody else's opinion of you.
True. And I believe podcasts have kind of helped that
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
aspect too of telling the truth.
Well, to give people a long form discussion to be able to explain themselves
Correct.
and not just take a snippet
You're not
of
getting the headline, you're getting the
Yeah,
whole fucking
exactly.
story. Right?
Yeah. So please, somebody snip this up and make some sensational headline out of it.
Yeah, the headline could be called "Tanner says you guys are all fucking morons." Boom, that'll be the headline. I'm serious. That'll be the headline, and then my career will take off, and it'll come down at the same time. Nobody gives a shit, anyways.
Yeah.
But Mr. Sam, I want to thank you for coming on the show, man.
Dude.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, let me tell people what is coming from
Cool.
Xanthochroid,
Yes.
because unfortunately, it's not new music at this time, but it is refreshing and re-releases and reissues of things that haven't been available for a while. So
Pangaea on vinyl?
yeah, no, not Pangaea on vinyl, but everybody wants Blessed He. A lot of people have never been able to get it. So
It's really hard to find.
we're doing a reissue of Blessed He with Boils. If you have the original, that's cool. Trust me, you're going to want this one because the layout and artwork, we're working with this awesome designer in Finland. His name is Juha Tretyakov, and he's helping us do the design layout for it. It's still going to feature Natasha's original art, but with all new art by Jana Heidersdorf, who did the Earth and Axon art. So that's going to be really cool.
Any new photos? Any new photos from like the photo shoot or?
No, nothing like that. Yeah, maybe with new music we would do that, but yeah, so just new artwork to enhance the story and listening guides. They're coming. I know they said they'd ship this month. They were already on pre-order, so people who know the band know what I'm talking about. Listening guides are coming.
Well, tell me about it real quick.
Oh, yeah, so we have a listening guide that goes with the Earth and Axon double album, and it basically
Triple album.
It has the lyrics and the art, and it also has the story notes that fill in the gaps between the lyrics. The lyrics don't exactly tell you the story; they tell you the feelings and the motivations of the characters. But there's story notes that tell you what's actually going on in the story, as if it were a musical or a movie, right? And so I've been promising printed listening guides with all that for a long time, and so they're these really nice books that we're having printed. Unfortunately, I'm not in Florida, where I live, so they will be being shipped there, and I'm not there because of a hurricane, so things are up in the air, but they are coming. We're doing a re-release of Blessed He with Boils, and we are buying some of the old vinyl that Blood Music still had in stock of Incultus and Blessed He. So those are coming as well. That will all happen this year.
I want a copy of each.
I know. You're getting one, bro.
I want a copy of each.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you seriously for coming on the show. Anybody who does not know Xanthochroid, please go look them up. They're just one of the great bands of Orange County that is undiscovered, but they're discovered. Kind of thing. Which
Undiscovered
and
discovered, yeah.
But Mr. Sam, thank you so much for coming on. And hopefully
Dude,
we can
thank
do this
you.
again. I would love to.
Dude, I had a
get
blast.
Your thoughts on some stuff. So
Yeah.
Mr.
Awesome.
Sam Meador, ladies and gentlemen, episode 41. I'm out of here.
All right.
Thanks so much, dude.
Cool.
Have a good one.